You were never designed to carry what doesn't belong to you. Let me say that again. You were never designed to carry what doesn't belong to you. And yet here you are, bent under the weight of other people's opinions, yesterday's failures, tomorrow's uncertainties, and 1,000 things you were never meant to hold. You exhausted, not because life is too hard, but because you're trying to control things that were never yours to control in the first place. You're fighting battles in arenas where you have no authority. You're pouring energy into doors that will never open for you. And the tragedy, the absolute tragedy, is that while you're wrestling with what you cannot change, you're ignoring the very things you can. Listen to me closely. The manufacturer of a product never wastes energy trying to make it do what it wasn't designed to do. A car manufacturer doesn't sit up at night frustrated that the car can't fly. Why? Because it was never meant to. The design determines the function. The blueprint defines the boundaries. And when you understand what you were built to do, you stop wasting your life trying to be something you're not, trying to control outcomes you were never meant to orchestrate, trying to carry burdens that will crush you because they were never yours to bear. But we live in a generation obsessed with control. We want to control the weather of our lives. Every storm, every season, every unexpected wind. We want to script other people's responses. We want to rewrite our past. We want guarantees about our future. And in that desperate grasping, in that need to manage everything, we lose the one thing we actually have power over ourselves. Our response, our focus, our next step. Our attitude in the middle of what we cannot change. You see, there's a difference between influence and control. You can influence many things. You can plant seeds. You can water ground. You can show up with excellence. But you cannot control the harvest. You cannot control the timeline. You cannot control how people receive what you offer. And the moment you confuse influence with control, you set yourself up for a breakdown. Because you spend your whole life angry at things that were never meant to bend to your will. I want you to think about a lion for a moment. A lion doesn't control the savannah. It doesn't control the weather. It doesn't control the movement of the herds, but it controls its focus. It controls its strike. It controls its patience. And because it masters what it can control, it thrives in an environment full of things it cannot. The lion doesn't complain that the gazelle runs fast. It doesn't waste energy being frustrated that the terrain is difficult. It adapts. It focuses. It acts within its power. And that's the difference between those who survive and those who dominate their circumstances. They stop arguing with reality and start mastering their response to it. You cannot control how you were born. You cannot control your beginnings. You cannot control what was done to you, what was said about you, what was taken from you. You cannot control the economy, the system, the culture, the generation you were born into. And I know that feels unfair. It feels limiting. It feels like you're being told to accept less. But here's the revelation that will set you free. Letting go of what you cannot control is not surrender. It's strategy. It's wisdom. It's the difference between spinning your wheels in mud and actually moving forward. Because every ounce of energy you spend trying to control the uncontrollable is energy stolen from what you can actually change. Every hour you spend rehashing the past is an hour you could have invested in building your future. Every moment you spend bitter about a closed door is a moment you're blind to the open ones. You're not being asked to stop caring. You're being asked to stop bleeding where you cannot heal. Here's what I've learned after walking this earth, after falling and rising, after success and failure, after joy and pain. Your power is not in your circumstances. Your power is in your perspective. Your power is not in controlling outcomes. Your power is in controlling your input. You control your effort. You control your preparation. You control your integrity. You control whether you show up or shut down. You control whether you learn or stay bitter. You control your words, your work, your worship, and your why. And that's enough. That's more than enough. In fact, that's everything. But we don't believe that, do we? We think we need control over everything to feel safe. We think if we can just manage every variable, orchestrate every outcome, predict every response, then we'll finally have peace. But that's not peace. That's prison. That's anxiety dressed up as ambition. Because the need to control everything is rooted in fear. Fear that if you let go, everything will fall apart. Fear that if you're not holding it all together, it won't hold. Fear that you are not enough unless you are managing everything. Let me tell you something that might sting a little. Your need to control is often just pride in disguise. It's the belief that you know better than life itself, better than timing, better than the process. It's the refusal to trust that there are forces at work beyond your comprehension, purposes unfolding that you cannot see, seeds growing underground that you didn't plant but will one day feed you. Control says, I must see it to believe it. Faith says, I'll trust the process even when I cannot trace it. Think about a seed. When you plant a seed, you cannot control what happens underground. You cannot speed up the cell division. You cannot force the roots to grow faster. You cannot command the shoot to break through the soil on your schedule. And if you dig it up every day to check on it, to control it, to make sure it's doing what you think it should be doing, you'll kill it. The seed doesn't need your control. It needs your patience. It needs the right environment. It needs time. And your job is simply to water the ground and trust the design. That's what life is asking of you. Stop digging up your seeds. Stop obsessing over what you cannot see. Stop trying to micromanage the underground season. You've done your part, now let the process do its part. Focus on what you can control. Showing up, staying consistent, keeping the soil of your life healthy. Let go of the timeline. Let go of how it's supposed to look. Let go of comparing your underground season to someone else's harvest. You want to know what's exhausting? Living like everything depends on you. Walking through life like you're Atlas, holding up the world, terrified that if you rest for 1 second, it will all collapse. That's not strength. That's a slow death. That's a recipe for burnout, bitterness, and breakdown. Because you were never meant to be God. You were never meant to carry what only the Creator can carry. You were never meant to have all the answers, fix all the problems, control all the variables. And here's the irony. The moment you let go of what you cannot control, you actually become more powerful. Because now your energy is focused. Now your mind is clear. Now you're acting with intention instead of reacting in panic. Now you're building instead of just protecting. Now you're creating instead of just surviving. The people who change the world are not the ones trying to control it. They're the ones who mastered themselves in the middle of it. You cannot control other people. Read that again. You cannot control other people. Not their choices, not their growth, not their opinions, not their pace, not their response to your love, your work, your truth. And the moment you accept that, you'll stop being a hostage to their approval. You'll stop shrinking yourself to make them comfortable. You'll stop performing for applause that may never come. You'll stop waiting for permission that no one has the authority to give you but yourself. Let them talk. Let them judge. Let them misunderstand. Let them walk away. You don't control that. But you control whether you let their voice become louder than your calling. You control whether you dim your light because they're uncomfortable with the brightness. You control whether you stay stuck in proving yourself to people who will never be convinced. Some people will never see your value, and that's fine. Because your assignment isn't to make them see. Your assignment is to keep walking in what you know is true. I'll tell you what, I've seen destroy more potential than failure ever could waiting. Waiting for the perfect conditions. Waiting for people to get it. Waiting for the fear to disappear. Waiting for permission. Waiting for certainty. And all that waiting is just control in disguise. It's the belief that you can wait long enough to eliminate all risk, to guarantee all outcomes, to control all reactions. But life doesn't work that way. You will never have all the answers. You will never have perfect conditions. You will never control how it turns out. And if you wait until you do, you'll die with your music still inside you. Here's what you can control. You can start. You can take the next step. You can make the call. You can write the first page. You can have the hard conversation. You can forgive even though they haven't apologized. You can build even though they said you'd fail. You can love even though you've been hurt. You can try again even though you've fallen before. You control your yes and your no. You control your start and your restart. There's a story about a runner. She crosses the finish line. The crowd roars. The medal is placed around her neck. Cameras flash. It's victory. It's glory. And most people would stop there. Most people would live off that moment for the rest of their lives. Replaying the highlight reel. Telling the story at every dinner party. Wearing the medal like it's an identity. But not her. The next morning, she's back on the track. No crowd. No cameras. No applause. Just her and the road and the decision to run again. Because she understands something most people don't. The race you won yesterday doesn't make you a runner today. The success of last season doesn't guarantee the harvest of this one. The breakthrough you had last year doesn't mean you stop growing this year. You don't control whether people remember what you did. But you control whether you keep doing what made you worth remembering. And that's the tension most people can't hold. They want to rest on what they've already accomplished. They want yesterday's glory to cover today's lack of effort. They want to control the narrative. Look at what I did. Look at who I was. Look at what I built. But they forget that the marketplace doesn't care about what you did last year. Life doesn't give you credit for potential. Your calling doesn't. Pause because you got tired. You don't control legacy by talking about the past. You control it by building in the present. What you can control is your comeback. What you can control is your consistency. What you can't control is whether you allow one failure to define you or refine you. What you can control is whether you stay down or stand back up. What you can control is the narrative you tell yourself when no one is watching. Am I a victim or a victor? Am I stuck or am I growing? Am I complaining or am I creating? Let me be very clear with you. Letting go of what you cannot control does not mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you become passive. It doesn't mean you accept mediocrity or injustice or pain and just shrug your shoulders. No, it means you stop wasting your fire on battles you cannot win so you can pour it into the ones you can. It means you stop being paralyzed by what you cannot change and start being activated by what you can. It means you stop giving power to what is powerless and start stepping into the authority you actually have. You cannot change the beginning, but you can control how the story ends. You cannot rewrite history, but you can stop letting it write your future. You cannot make people love you, respect you, choose you, see you, but you can love yourself enough to stop begging for it. You cannot control the hand you were dealt, but you control how you play it. And some of you are sitting there right now and you're tired. You burned out from trying to manage everything. You're exhausted from performing, from pretending, from protecting an image that's costing you your peace. You are angry because things didn't turn out the way you planned. You're bitter because people didn't show up the way they promised. And all of that is weighing you down like chains. But those chains, you're holding the key. The door has always been open. You just have to be willing to let go. Letting go is not losing. Letting go is liberation. It's the exhale you've been holding for years. It's the weight you were never meant to carry finally lifting off your shoulders. It's the permission you've been waiting for to stop trying to be everything to everyone and just be who you were created to be. Because here's the truth they don't tell you in those shallow motivational speeches. You cannot do everything. You cannot be everywhere. You cannot fix everyone. You cannot carry it all. And the moment you try, you'll break. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. And being human means having limits. It means needing rest. It means being okay with not having all the answers. It means surrendering the illusion of control and embracing the beauty of trust. Trust that what is meant for you will find you. Trust that closed doors are protection, not rejection. Trust that delay is not denial. Trust that the things you cannot control are being handled by something greater than your understanding. Trust that your job is not to manage the universe. Your job is to show up fully in the space you occupy, to steward well what's in front of you, to be excellent where you are, and to let the rest unfold. You want to know what separates those who thrive from those who just survive? It's not talent, it's not connections, it's not even opportunity, it's focus. It's the ability to zero in on what actually matters and release everything else. It's the discipline to say, this is mine to carry, and that is not. It's the wisdom to know the difference between what needs my energy and what's draining it. It's the courage to walk away from what I cannot fix and walk toward what I can build. I'm not telling you this is easy. I'm telling you it's necessary. I'm not telling you to stop caring. I'm telling you to care smarter. I'm not telling you to give up. I'm telling you to give up the right things, the worry, the bitterness, the need to control outcomes, the exhausting performance, the people-pleasing, the comparison, the replaying of yesterday's failures, the rehearsal of tomorrow's fears. You've been trying to hold water in your hands and you're frustrated that it keeps slipping through your fingers. But water was never meant to be held. It was meant to flow. Let it flow. Let go of what's not yours. Let go of who's not for you. Let go of what didn't work out. Let go of the version of yourself that no longer fits. Let go of the timeline you thought you'd be on. Let go of the fantasy that control equals safety, because real safety, real peace, real power is not found in managing every outcome. It's found in mastering your response to whatever comes. It's found in knowing who you are regardless of what happens around you. It's found in being so rooted in your purpose that storms can't shake you, delays can't discourage you, and rejection can't redefine you. And let me tell you something else that nobody wants to hear. Some of the things you're holding on to, they're already dead. That relationship that ended 3 years ago, that dream that didn't pan out, that version of yourself that no longer exists, that opportunity that passed, you're carrying corpses. You're dragging dead weight into a season that requires you to be light, to be free, to be available for what's trying to come. And you wonder why you can't move forward. Because you're trying to build a future while clutching a cemetery. Stop embalming the past. Stop preserving what was never meant to last. Stop trying to resurrect what was meant to teach you, not stay with you. Some chapters close so new ones can open. Some people leave so better ones can arrive. Some dreams die so greater ones can be born. But you'll never know what's next if you can't let go of what was. You think you're being loyal. You think you're being faithful. You think you're honoring what was. But all you're doing is blocking what's trying to be. All you're doing is standing at a closed door, knocking, begging, pleading for it to open again, while the door behind you, the one you can't see because you refuse to turn around, is wide open, waiting, ready, calling your name. Turn around. Stop trying to force what won't open. Stop convincing yourself that if you just try harder, control better, manage more perfectly, that somehow it will work. It won't. And deep down, you already know that. But you're terrified of what it means to admit it. You're terrified of starting over. You're terrified of being wrong. You're terrified of wasted time. So you stay, you cling, you control, and you slowly die inside. But here's what I need you to understand. The time you spent wasn't wasted. The pain you endured wasn't pointless. The failure you experienced wasn't final. It was preparation. It was education. It was elimination. It was showing you what doesn't work so you can recognize what does. It was teaching you what you don't want so you can become clear about what you do. It was stripping away the illusions so you can finally see the truth. And the truth is this: you have been given another day. You have been given another breath. You have been given another chance, not to go back and fix what broke, not to control what you couldn't then and can't now, but to step into what you can do today, right now, in this moment, with what you have, where you are. You control your next breath. You control your next thought. You control your next decision. You control whether you stay in the story of what happened or step into the story of what's happening. You control whether this becomes the chapter where you gave up or the chapter where you rose up. Some of you have been paralyzed for years because you're waiting for someone to apologize. You're waiting for justice. You're waiting for vindication. You're waiting for them to finally see what they did, to admit they were wrong, to acknowledge the pain they caused. And while you're waiting, your life is passing you by. While you're waiting, opportunities are walking past you. While you're waiting for them to set you free, you're imprisoning yourself. You don't need their apology to move forward. You don't need their acknowledgement to heal. You don't need their validation to know your worth. Let them carry their own weight. You were never meant to manage their conscience. You were never meant to force their awareness. You were never meant to wait for their permission to live fully. You control your healing. You control your peace. You control your freedom. And it starts the moment you decide that what they did or didn't do will no longer dictate what you do or don't become. Forgive them for you, not for them. Let go for your liberation, not their convenience. Move forward because your future is waiting, not because your past has resolved. Because here's the cold, hard truth. Some things will never make sense. Some people will never change. Some wrongs will never be made right. And if you keep waiting for resolution before you take action, you'll wait forever. Control what you can, your response, your perspective, your next move. Release what you can't, their choices, their growth, their timeline. And when you do that, when you finally make that separation, you'll feel a shift. You'll feel lighter. You'll feel freer. You'll feel like you can finally breathe again. And here's what will happen when you let go. Space will open up. Clarity will come. Energy will return. Vision will sharpen. The fog will lift. And you'll realize that all this time you weren't stuck because the door was locked. You were stuck because you were pushing when you should have been pulling. You were stuck because you were fighting when you should have been flowing. You were stuck because you were controlling when you should have been creating. Creation requires open hands. Innovation requires flexibility. Growth requires release. You cannot grab hold of what's new if your fists are clenched around what's old. You cannot step into your future if your feet are planted in your past. You cannot become who you're meant to be if you're still trying to be who you were. This is your invitation. This is your moment. This is the line in the sand. On one side is the life you've been living, full of frustration, exhaustion, and the desperate need to manage everything. On the other side is the life you could be living, full of focus, power, and the freedom that comes from knowing what's yours and what's not. The choice is yours. But understand this, you cannot have both. You cannot hold on and let go at the same time. You cannot control everything and experience peace. You cannot manage outcomes and trust the process. You have to choose. And when you choose to let go, when you choose to focus only on what you can control, you're not giving up. You're waking up. You're not settling. You're strategizing. You're not quitting. You're beginning. Because the greatest battles are not won by those who fight everything. They are won by those who choose their battles wisely, who conserve their energy for what matters, who understand that sometimes the most powerful move is to let go and step forward. I've watched people destroy themselves trying to control the uncontrollable. I've seen brilliant minds waste away in the prison of what if and if only. I've seen powerful souls shrink into shadows of themselves because they couldn't release what was never theirs to hold. And I've also seen the opposite. I've seen people rise from ashes. I've seen ordinary individuals do extraordinary things, not because they had control over their circumstances, but because they had mastery over themselves. They didn't wait for perfect. They started with possible. They didn't demand guarantees. They trusted the process. They didn't need to see the whole staircase. They just took the next step. And step by step, choice by choice, day by day, they built lives that others called miracles, but they knew were simply the result of focusing on what they could control and releasing what they couldn't. You have that same power. You have that same choice. You have that same opportunity right now, right here, in this very moment. You can decide that today is the day you stop carrying what doesn't belong to you. Today is the day you stop trying to manage the unmanageable. Today is the day you take your power back by surrendering the illusion that you ever had control over anything except yourself. And when you make that decision, something shifts in the universe. When you align with your design instead of fighting against it, doors open. When you focus your energy instead of scattering it, momentum builds. When you let go of dead weight, you rise. It's not magic, it's mechanics, it's spiritual law. It's the way things were always meant to work. The eagle doesn't control the wind, but it uses the wind to soar higher than any bird that tries to fly by its own power alone. The sailor doesn't control the ocean, but he adjusts his sails to work with the current instead of against it. The farmer doesn't control the seasons, but he plants in alignment with them and trusts the harvest will come. And you don't control life, but you can align with it, you can work with it, you can dance with it instead of wrestling it, you can flow with it instead of fighting it. And when you do, when you finally stop resisting and start receiving, when you stop demanding and start discovering, you'll find that life was never against you, it was always for you. It was always trying to teach you. It was always trying to grow you. It was always trying to free you from the very things you were clinging to. This is not the end of your story. This is the chapter where you take your power back. This is where you stop being a prisoner of circumstance and become an architect of change. This is where you let go of the past's grip and grab hold of your future's promise. This is where you stop performing for an audience that doesn't matter and start living for the purpose that does. You were never meant to control the wind. You were meant to adjust your sails. You were never meant to manage the universe. You were meant to master yourself. You were never meant to carry everything. You were meant to carry what's yours and release what's not. And that, my friend, is more than enough. That is everything. That is freedom. That is power. That is peace. That is the life you were always meant to live. Now go, focus on what you can control. Let go of what you cannot. Step into your authority. Release the illusion. Trust the process. Master your response. And watch how everything changes when you finally do. This is your moment. This is your time. This is your turn. Don't waste it trying to manage the unmanageable. Step into your power. Claim your peace. Build your future. And don't you dare look back.